And there it is. Here we are again. Clean breakthrough, powered by Greenville Transitions. And this is like episode number 55, I think, which is crazy. We're in like the mid 50s now. Um, Seems like a lot longer than that, or that we would have a lot more than that. But there was some rebranding and shifting in there. So, what are your
Do you feel like
thoughts?
a pro? Do you feel like a professional, David?
Absolutely not. You know, people say it gets easier. I say it stayed the same.
Hmm, that's interesting. I feel like it it's both easier and harder. I think it's a lot easier. Like I get way less nervous getting on here and recording and overthinking what am I going to say or worried about whatever. And just with time, you realize like, oh, you're not immediately going to go viral, and there's maybe a limited amount of people who would actually see it. So just let it rip and be genuine, and you just get more into practice of it. The hard part is like keeping the content and material fresh, I would say, and like not having literally the same conversations over and over, but like different topics that are interesting or things that maybe we haven't thought of.
Yeah,
I think that's the more challenging part for me. But the actual experience of sitting down and recording isn't anywhere near as difficult as it was on like day one.
I would agree with all of that. I used to sit down in the chair, get the mic on, turn the camera on, and instantly start sweating like armpit stains. It's anxiety. And it's not that anymore. It
Yeah.
feels way more natural.
Hmm. Yeah.
Lucas, how do you feel about being in like on your 55th episode or something like that?
Well, first of all, thank y'all for sharing your feelings on that. That was really vulnerable of you to do, especially your physical responses to it, David. I appreciate knowing that. I heard 55 weeks and I just thought that's got to mean if we do it about every week, we've been doing it for over a year, like more consistently. So I think about maybe closer to like a year and a half. But yeah, I agree with what all y'all said. You know, you just kind of you let go, you let God, and you just say what you want to say. I don't know. I just kind of, if anything, I just kind of stopped. This might sound bad. I kind of stopped caring as much, like about like what, like I know how I feel about stuff, and I talk to people all day about that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I was just like, just not over, like Cole said, just not overthinking it, and just talk like I
Letting it rip, dude.
just letting it rip.
All right. Well, I've got a topic today. One previously discussed, but I wanted to bring it to light in terms of phone calls that I've had with family. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like kind of addiction, but not really addiction. It's mostly mental health. Like we just need
Yeah. Hang
more.
on, David. I think you glitched in the middle of that. At least on my screen, you did.
Did I?
For
Did
me, it did. Did it glitch on yours, Lucas?
I don't know.
Oh my God, Lucas!
my,
Can you
my
key it
voice
up
and
one more
everything?
time? It froze just for me for a second. Can you
Okay.
just say it one more time? At least for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Keep-
That was my rewind sound. All right. So rewind, and what I was saying is being on the phone with families, and I hear them talk about like addiction services and needing help, but then they'll say like, well, I don't know, it's not really addiction, it's mostly mental health, and there's like this clear like line drawn in the sand saying that these are two totally different things, and maybe we just need to focus on mental health and not address addiction at all, even though um, like the story would tell you that that does exist when you look into the background of that person. So I wanted to bring that to light and just touch on that a little bit. Like addiction versus mental health, are they completely separate? Does it just mesh together and they go hand in hand? Um, and I figured, what a better way to do that than like with people who have struggled with addiction and a therapist.
Okay, sounds good. Lucas, initial reactions to that, or you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I think that I do feel like we hear that a lot of like, oh, well, I have mental health struggles. And I mean, someone wouldn't be with us if there wasn't addiction struggles also. So like that part's got to be kind of a given. Um, but then you start hearing like, oh, well, it's not really addiction, it's mental health. And I think we're always like, yeah, dude, we totally agree. Like, I think addiction has to come from mental health issues. I just don't think otherwise totally well adapted people with good coping strategies who don't have any hint of anxiety, depression, ADHD, anything else. I just don't think they really turn to drugs or alcohol in the real world. You know, I think it's always people who are like struggling in some way, and could be trauma also, or PTSD. I just think there's always something like that attached to it. So it's kind of weird to me. Yeah, it's just not weird. It's just always kind of surprising to hear that narrative continue on of like, well, I have mental health issues. And it's like, what do you think we do here, dude? Like, there's only so long we can talk about like, this is what addiction is. This is how it affects your brain. These are different types of drugs. Like, that's like 1% of it. You know, the other 99% is like, what's going on with you that makes you even want to do drugs and alcohol and do all this crazy stuff to get it and lie about it and whatever, you know, like, that's just not a person who's well mentally. So let's talk about mental health. So I'm just, yeah, always a little blown away when I hear that. But that's my thoughts to start.
I think we as humans we try so much to like put things in boxes to understand it. Like especially when we're talking about things we cannot like tangibly touch or grab. Um, that we just recategorize. We do that from time we're like little kids, like with colors and shapes and all that kind of stuff. So it makes sense as we go along in life and there's something that's really hard to understand that we would do this. I think it's a mistake though to like say addiction versus mental health. Um, because then you even start getting like physical health. It's all intertwined, you know, like if you have like substance abuse problems, it is probably affecting your physical health, but you're probably affecting your mental health, but you're probably affecting your spiritual health or whatever other category you want to throw in there. Is it all like interconnects? Um, what I find interesting is when it's brought up, the timing of when people say it's mental health versus addiction. And unfortunately, it's usually brought up as a defense mechanism of like, I don't really like what I'm being told or the approach that is being utilized to like try to like get some kind of change going within me or my family member. So I'm gonna say, hey, you're just focusing too much on addiction. You're focusing too much on the substance abuse part of it, and it's mental health. Or vice versa. I've heard it flipped the other way too. It's usually coming up when there is a resistance. So I think one thing to note is within yourself is when are you bringing up that point of, hey, it's mental health or hey, it's addiction or are you bringing that up in a point of like resistance and you do not like what you are hearing? That it is like forcing you maybe to change because beyond even like the categories within itself, like societally or like socially, the health is usually pretty diminished. And when you start like thinking about an actively like a really well run, in my opinion, like group or therapy session, um, it should not just be sitting there talking about like drugs of abuse or what is it like to withdraw from cocaine or whatever. Like it needs to get deeper than that because it's usually deeper reasons of why somebody would use substances, you know, so compulsively and the impact of it typically has some pretty deep rooted impact on like how you relate to people, how you relate to yourself, how do you feel about yourself, how do you take care of yourself. So I think that's kind of like a long answer, but I think it's all very intertwined, and it's a mistake to start using that as like a deflection, like hey, I just need mental health help. You know, it's like we know, you know, like that's why we talk about that. You know,
I feel like a lot of the times we hear that type of talk, especially from the sober living front, is normally to avoid AA or shmay shmay, or you need 12-step meetings or extra programming outside of therapy where they're saying like, hey, I don't need this extra stuff. I only need like to talk to a therapist and to talk to a psychiatrist and to get my medications adjusted. But as far as like working some sort of a program and building a community, I'm not really into that. Would you agree?
I would, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's always where it comes up is like just what in people. This is the thing. In people's mind, this is my opinion. In people's mind, mental health help is just going to see a therapist and talking about your anxiety and your depression and maybe getting some medications from a psychiatrist. It's not groups, it's not shmay shmay, it's not sponsorship, it's not sober living. Like it just automatically reduces, I think, in most people's mind to just like, so that's all I need is just to like see a therapist. And a lot of times we hear that where they're like, oh, I mean, I love individual therapy. I just don't like the groups and the shmay shmay and the chores and the sober living and the rule. You know, I don't need all that. Like, oh, and I totally get it. Like for these totally addicted guys in the house, oh my God, they need it for sure. But me, I'm just mental health, you know? So like, I don't know that I really need all that. So if you could just tell my parents that, that'd be cool. And we could just get me back over to their house and love to keep seeing Cole. Love Cole. Yeah. I'll keep seeing him for individual sessions and that'd be all good. Like it's almost always paired with those types of requests or kind of what changes they want to see. And yeah, just kind of silly because it's like a lot of like what you talk about in Shmei Shmei really is just kind of like mental health stuff. It's just like, how do I like cope and adapt better with life and not get like resentful so that I'm not angry at people and let things go and believe in something bigger than me so I don't have to have all this control and power on the show. Like it's kind of all stuff that just makes people feel better. Like I would say mental health wise.
I've also seen it come up on the family side, and it's typically the same thing. Like when you're kind of like in your own like recovery, you hit this point where you have to take very tangible action with putting boundaries down with your family member, or like reflecting on yourself and like maybe times you like enabled or really like allowed on some level like the substance abuse problems to continue or the dependence of them on you. And then when you're faced with like, hey, okay, I've really got to put a tough boundary down, have like an unpleasant conversation or deal with conflict, then it'll shift like, is there not a med for that? Like, I just don't know if they're getting what they need. Like I think this is just way too much addiction and it's really mental health. When the reality is that is like a natural, normal part of like human development is your parents at some point saying like, hey, it's time for you to fly the nest. Like you have to go do the tough things and you can go do that on your own. And like we believe in you. We have taught you like resiliency and capability. And you're gonna go find that. Like we can't just like help you feel that or do it for you. And it's when that comes up, like that moment. So it's always like on this precipice of like, okay, there's real tough, tangible action that I have to face my fear of when it comes up. I have to face my fear of going into a room of people I don't know and introduce myself. I have to face my fear of like having that conversation with my loved one that for 10, 15 years, I have been just like funding their life and not really pushing them beyond like some developmental step. And I got to finally do it. If that is when you start saying addiction versus mental health, then it's really a giant check engine light. It's a big warning sign that you're hitting something that's like there's some tremendous growth on the other side. But this is a wall you gotta find a way through.
Two additions to that. I agree with everything you just said. One is I think that, and I don't know if you'd agree with me, I also think there's a big degree of shame when it comes to addiction with a family member. And it seems like there's just something easier to swallow or to say of like, oh, my son has mental health struggles, rather than saying he's addicted to crack or he's addicted to THC vape pens or whatever. There's something like within their social circles, their support networks that's like, well, we don't really want to tell anyone. And I've seen that even with families about like telling an aunt, telling a grandparent, like telling someone who's like pretty firmly in the family that you would think would kind of be one of those easier ones of like, okay, we'll tell everyone in the family, but I don't want to tell everyone at church or at my job or whatever. You can kind of get some of those boundaries. But we see it all the time where it's like, we just don't know how we're going to tell grandma. I mean, you're like, grandma doesn't know where he is. They're like, no, she doesn't know. We don't know how we're going to tell her. She thinks he's in summer camp and that he's doing horseback archery and riding four-wheelers and stuff. He's in like a hunting camp. Like, well, yeah, but you could just tell him. So I've seen that with mental health as a pivot. The other one that kind of ties in with your thing, Cole, is I see it also as just being reactionary to the guy we might work with saying it's mental health. Like they go to their parents and are like, it's just my depression. I'm just struggling, this and that. And I think the parents have this decision of like, I can kind of hold them accountable because I also know there's a little bit of this BS feeling that like, it's not the depression. It's just getting to the hard part where you normally give up and make excuses and say it's all this other stuff. Oh, but that's going to be really tough. Or I kind of just co-sign it and tag on and, go to the staff, whatever. And are like, I totally agree. It's depression. Y'all need to get him to the psychiatrist immediately and have these meds checked out. You guys aren't doing enough or whatever. He's got serious mental health issues. And sometimes that's interesting too, because it's like, I guess there's just like a trust factor that doesn't feel there at times, of like, do you trust what we do? Do you trust that we have eyes on them all the time, that we're looking at, seeing if depression's flaring up, anxiety on the home front and the office front? Yeah, that just seems to be missing there conveniently at like kind of the hard times. And that is, well, not conveniently. That's the hardest time to have trust and faith is when things are hard, It's easy to do it when things are going well. It's hard to do it when someone's blowing you up that they hate their life. They've never been more miserable. Sobriety's the worst. They're more depressed than when they were using drugs, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think on a lot of levels, not speaking a pretty big generality, I'm not saying literally everybody, but I do think our society as a whole is pretty addicted to the easy button. And like when stuff gets really hard, that we will hit the easy button and eject and get out of it, and that's not just like this conversation. That's in a lot of things. But trust is paramount. Like if you're doing a really hard let's say it's a really hard like workout, you trust like the trainer or the coach just like pushing you through it isn't going to kill you. And you can keep pushing yourself and you find like a new level that you like didn't know you could push yourself to. If you are working for somebody and they're like, hey, we really got to make this project happen. You can do this, like we got to do this as a team, we got to go, we got to pull an all-nighter or whatever. You trust on some level that, okay, this person has my back, and when we lose that that trust, or like fear causes us to distrust, then it's really hard to push past that and we hit the easy button. And I don't know how to, I think it's like a bit of a leap of faith there. It's very much a leap of faith. And if people, I think the antidote perhaps, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but the antidote, I think it's like admitting you're scared, admitting like, I don't think I can do it, but I'm willing to try. I think that is like probably the antidote to all that. And that I think opens up somebody to trust, to really try something new, But if you're scared, you're like, this could go so bad and I can't handle what's going to happen next. So no, I am going to go back to the easy button.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, I think that the easy button gets pressed a lot for a reason. And a lot of people, that we see, I mean, as well as myself, like all the worst things I do in my life are the easy button. It's like there's a hard thing to do and there's an easy thing to do. And the negative thing in my life is the easy thing to do. And I press that button so quick, and today it's like diet, exercise, some character defect stuff here and there. It's not like, go smoke crack or do heroin or anything anymore. But I mean, I just think that easy button's always there in some form or another. I think the mental health thing sometimes is also that easy button. I was thinking about within our program, and this isn't everybody, and I don't mean any of this to sound like mental health isn't real or anything like that, because we totally believe in depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar, whatever the thing may be. But it's funny sometimes how, we'll get sometimes get guys where I'll get like, well, in maybe like in hindsight, yeah, in the moment, if anything, it's kind of frustrating, not funny, but where you get like a call from someone's family member, and they're just like, hey, he's texting me and he's saying he's like the most depressed he's ever been, and things have never been like darker or worse, and he just doesn't see a way out. And I'm just like, all right, let me go like just pop upstairs real quick and take a look at him. And he's like playing a video game with the rest of the guys, just like laughing and goofing and having a great time. And you're just like, dude, it's just like total baloney. Like, what are you doing? They're just spinning up stories. Or sometimes the guys that it's like, you know, conveniently get really, really depressed exclusively in group therapy sessions, individual therapy, and shmay meetings or meetings with their sponsor. But anything in between that can cut up and joke and everything's totally fine. But as soon as it's like, all right, man, let's like talk about it. Like if you got depression, let's talk about it, work on it, take some accountability for it of like what you could do different, what you could change, how we could change your, you know, perspective. And it's like, whoa. I'm too depressed to talk about any of that. And then as soon as group ends, you see him outside smoking a cigarette or vaping or something and like hitting little dance moves and like, can't wait to go play Fortnite, dog. You know, it's like, oh my God, dude, really like that quick? Like, it's like when you pass the threshold of the office, all of a sudden the depression flees, you know? And I think it just becomes, I see this more and more as generations move on, because I think there's more awareness about mental health, which is a great thing. And there's more education about mental health. But I do think there's a downside that it can be used as a manipulative tool when the more people are aware of it, that it's just like, oh, that, because that's that easy button. Hey, I need you to clean your room. I can't. I'm too depressed. You know, reminds me of AJ from The Sopranos or something. But it just kind of becomes this thing that kind of gets you out of things. And as long as that works, I feel like you just go back to it. And if you started pressing that button at 13, at 20, you know, that's going to look even more exaggerated and be even tougher to break and to call out. And nobody wants to, because who wants to be like, no, dude, you're fibbing. You know, like I don't want to tell someone they're fibbing about their depression. Like that feels terrible, because I'm always like, what if I'm wrong? You know, like, or what if I'm kind of right and I'm kind of wrong? They are depressed, but they're also using it manipulatively to like get out of stuff. It's just, it's tough stuff to talk about, and it's tough stuff to like just go on your gut with, because it's things you just don't want to be wrong about. But we see it all the time, even as far as, and I'll shut up with this, but even as more extreme than depression, of like suicidal ideation. I mean, we see a good deal of guys that like even admit after the fact, like, I didn't want to harm myself. I didn't want to kill myself. I just didn't want to do this thing in the program. And I figured if I said that, I knew y'all would have to do something about it, and I could just get out and go to a mental hospital. And then once I was there, I'd work on my parents to see if I could come back to their house instead of sober living. But it was all just kind of a giant manipulation thing. So it's unfortunate, because that it muddies the waters for the people who are really having suicidal ideation, who are really struggling with depression, anxiety, and like want help and want support so that they can actually get through it.
I mean, David, you said you pulled that card yourself to your when you were in rehab.
Oh yeah, we got a live one in the chat.
Yeah, 2 of them, dude. Lucas was trying to get everyone to turn against all of the counselors at treatment, and I was acting miserable with everything that I did. And it was crazy. I would have those little breakaways that Lucas just talked about, where it was like, I've got to act real depressed and real sad when I'm in this meeting, and I've got to act real depressed when I'm in therapy. But then I'm going to go out, like I went to like a horse ranch, and I was like, then I'm going to go out to the stables and I'm going to like hang out with my horse, or like we could go fishing. I'm going to go fishing and enjoy that a little bit. But then I got to look sad while I'm doing it. And you would catch yourself. It reminds me of like the thing where you act happy and you swipe your hand down and go sad. But it was that. It was like constantly trying to like flip the switch of like, oh wait, I'm mad right now.
Now, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of this summertime right now. It reminds me of like being in a pool with a kid who's got like a floaty on, but they want the noodle so bad, and they're like spazzing out trying to get the noodle or the float because they think they need that to like not drown. And I'm like, dude, you got like a floaty on. You got like a little life jacket on. Like there's one of our little friends is like this. He's like, I starts freaking out. I'm like, dude, you have a life jacket on. You're all good. You got it. Like that is very much like what it's like to me, that there's this like scenario where I don't even know. There's this scenario where you're going to be okay. Like you're going to be okay, but you need to like the little floaty in the pool because that's your easy button, and you'll do whatever you can to like try to grab it. But when in reality, when you come back to it, like you're fine. Like you're fine. It feels different, right? It's different being in a pool of water and a life jacket compared to standing outside the pool of water, but you're in the pool. And it's different, but it doesn't mean you're about to drown. And I think parents got to be honest with themselves too, going back to that. You got to be very honest of like what are the weak links in your chain, or what are your like selling points? How would somebody sell an idea to you? You know? So if you know going into buying a car that you're really big on like fuel efficiency, and if they hit on that, like, hey, you're gonna get like 45 miles per gallon and ba, 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 like that is something that matters a lot to you, right? And you may be more inclined to like spend more on a car because it gets really good fuel efficiency. As a parent, you have to be very honest with yourself. Like, what are your like kind of like weak links? What are the things that somebody could push that button in you and then you're going to buy in that idea? And what we see with addiction, because it is such this like, and it's
And
like
they
you
know.
gotta like
Your son, your daughter, they know what button to push.
once again, way more capable than they would ever want anybody to realize, right? But yes, fantastic salespeople. And so they know, like, okay, what buttons can I push with my person so I can get out of this hard situation, right? It's akin to the little kid in the pool just starts screaming, whatever, so that you will like put them on the float or pick them up and put them out of the pool. And I'm not saying you just leave kids in a pool if they're freaking out, but like this is what's happening, from like a mental health perspective. And yeah, we're not. I guess my other big point is we are not saying mental health problems are not real. We're saying the complete opposite. Like we're saying it is mental health under the umbrella of just like trying to just live your life and have some kind of like health and just like a functional life. Physical health is in there, spiritual health is in there, relationship health is in there, mental health is in there. What we are saying is addiction is a part of mental health, not the other way. I think that's the thing that gets very confusing when people are like, I just feel like you're focusing a lot on the addiction. I'm like, while we're focusing on like it's mental health, and the addiction is a function of that. Like it's a very real function of that. We're just having to spend time on that right now because it is so like it's so overt right now. So I know I'm saying two different things there, but being very honest with yourself, like what the weak links are in your defense,
Yeah, and
because other people can see it too.
yeah, and being honest and vulnerable and like willing to look at what you may have done as a parent to get you to where you are and where your son is or where your daughter is. But it's a lot of it is learned behavior, unfortunately. And I like I'm going to get way off track here probably and have trouble tying this back in as always. But I like looking at it as problems and solutions. Like when you have a problem, you need to find a solution to fix the problem, whether that's at your home, whether that's in your business, whether that's with a friendship, problems and solutions. And I think a lot of people like to stick to, and this is the opposite maybe of blaming it on mental health. This is more of blaming it on addiction. The families that go way further that route, I think they can often stop on the drink. Let's call it a drink in this scenario. The drink, my son just won't stop drinking, and the drink is the problem. And it's like, no, the drink is his solution to the problem. And the problem lies more in a mental health capacity. And we've got to explore that. And then we've got to like figure out what you did, what role you played in helping him tap into this mental health condition. And this is like going to be a whole family component here. We're going to have to dive into mom, dad, sister, brother, and your son or daughter, whoever's with us struggling. But yeah, that's kind of like I said, going back, pointing toward more, it's just an addiction issue than a mental health issue. So you have to be careful on both sides.
I'm gonna do two things. Both, well, one jumps back. I think when it comes to parents and their kids, I think there is no one who knows better how to manipulate you in your life than your children. And by the time they are 18 or 20, I think they're like the top person that you will ever have in your life in manipulating you. And my oldest child is 3, and my youngest is 1.5. Both of them do it. And I mean, it's kind of baby stuff now, but like, when a baby's crying because they're hungry, like I wouldn't call that manipulation. That's just like the only way they can do it. But my daughter at 1.5 now will cry when she wants a cookie that the bigger kids are eating and she can't have one. She doesn't need that cookie to survive. She just ate dinner. She's totally fine, but she's kind of exploring like, what can I do? How loud can I be? Whatever can I do to get this cookie? And it just goes on and on and on. And it's just pattern recognition and just trial and error of like, okay, that when something works, you go back to it, you go back to it, you go back to it until it stops working for long enough. And then I'll pivot to something else. And I think for a lot of like, especially like the younger people we work with, younger guys specifically in sober living, they've like really mastered that. And for, there's kind of an archetype there. For the most part, this is not perfect. For the most part, mom is the one you go to with the emotional stuff. They're not being nice to me. They're not feeding me. I don't get enough food. I'm cold. I don't have a jacket. They're not listening to my feelings. I'm depressed. And then dad is like, we don't even do anything in the groups. This is a big waste of your money. They had us color the other day. I can't believe you're paying for me to color, like things like that. And so those are like the two kind of main ones. Those roles can switch with mom and dad, or might just be one parent with both of those things. But those are kind of the most normal things that I see. And so it's just like, it's not created in a vacuum. It's been going on for like 18, 25, 30, 34 years, even with guys we work with that are like 34 or 30. Like it's all the same stuff. They know exactly what buttons to press. They press them really well. And the parents just kind of struggle to realize that that's a button because it's a button for a reason. It like hits on some emotional heartstring you have that is really tempting for them to do that with. Second thing, it's not like it's not the chicken or the egg. Like it's a cycle, with like the mental health stuff and the addiction, because something else that happens all the time. And it's like, well, I'm like super anxious. And it's like, oh, when did that start? And it's like normally somewhere around the addiction. And sometimes not. Sometimes I've been an anxious kid their whole life. But this one's interesting where it's like sometime around the addiction, it's like, if only we could figure out why you're anxious. Maybe because you're like lying to everyone in your life, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, looking in your rear view if police are following you because you got drugs in your car. Like, it's like, it's no surprise why you're anxious. Or the guy that's like, I'm depressed, and all they, do is like play video games, do drugs, sit in their room in the dark,
watch Law and Order SVU.
Watch Law and Order SVU on one monitor. They're playing Candy Crush on another. They're not talking to anyone, or if they are, it's only digital communication. They're not out in the sun. They're not connecting with people. They're not doing anything physical. You're like, yeah, dude, your life sounds depressing. Like, that's kind of a good thing, right? Like depression is almost like our body, our mind, our body, whatever, telling us like, you got to do something different. This is really bad for us. Like if you don't get out in the sun, if you don't start connecting with other people, like we're going to die in here. And it almost feels like depression is kind of that warning sign of like, hey, alert, alert, like somebody pull this guy out of the room and say like, come on, you're coming with us. We're going to play basketball. We're going to do whatever. Like it's almost like the same thing pain is physically to us, to like let us know like, stay away from that thing. That hurts. Stay off of it. That'll burn you, whatever. It's like mental health stuff seems to kind of be the body or the mind's way of sending a similar warning sign, but on the mental front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to piggyback off that last point real quick, I think depression, I'd read an article about this and they were talking about like what are the functions of like anxiety and depression? What is their like purpose? And depression, the theory was depression like slows you down enough so you can like really evaluate your life and like kind of like look in the mirror. And then anxiety is like kind of the accelerator of, okay, I got to do something different, And you think about even like just how they feel energetically, anxiety is more excitatory. It's like, hey, it's we got to get up and do something. And it's okay to have anxiety about it. I used to have a lot of anxiety, right? Getting on here, do the podcast. I needed to do it, but my brain was saying, hey, pay attention, be alert, be on guard, right? some of us might have like sweaty armpits because of that. Like we're real excitatory, you know? And then the depression is like, hey, let me slow you down for a minute. You got to really evaluate like what's going on here. You know, maybe there are some things you need to grieve and let go of. So, and having experienced both of those personally, it sucks. Like it's not fun whatsoever. It's really rough. I also want to say, you know, because we're talking a lot about like the defenses that come up or the selling points of like helping some, you know, somebody wanting you to like pull them out of a hard situation. Like the question may be coming up for you, like, what do I do then? If you're telling me like, hey, my family member's saying, I'm so depressed, get me out of this treatment program, or, you know, the people in AA judge me or smash me, judge me or whatever. What do I say? I think the answer lies in you simply just model what you want them to do. You want them to be your family member. You want them to be honest. You want them to be vulnerable, and you want them to do the hard thing. So I would just put that back on you. I want you to be honest, vulnerable, and do the hard thing. And David, you have a beautiful story about this that you talked about before of what your mom said to you when you would call her saying you were suicidal in treatment. She was honest, vulnerable, and did the hard thing. And it's a beautiful story. It just like sums it up so well. But instead of jumping into, let me fix it for you, let me finagle and send emails and make phone calls to get you out of this. Instead of that is like, no, let me just literally show you the way. I'm going to literally demonstrate the way. And you won't know this now, right? But years later, hopefully you see what it was, right?
Yeah.
So I think like that's the most powerful. And will you for the people that maybe haven't heard, will you tell them real quick like what your mom told you when you were caller when you were boohooing at the horse ranch?
Yeah, dude. Tell them what you were doing. You were boo-hooing.
Yeah, boohooing or threatening to commit suicide.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, she would mostly tell me to gosh. I mean, she would say a lot like, "Hey, I just lost your dad. I don't want to lose you too. You need to like stay and work this out." Um Gosh, now I'm trying to think what all she did say. What are you referring to, Cole?
I'm referring to that. So
Yeah.
you would literally be sitting there and your mom is like, you have like literally lost your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you have a doctor saying that you're schizophrenic.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you are just not functioning. And so, you know, you have like a moment of clarity. You decide you will go to treatment. You go to treatment. It immediately becomes hard. I'm having to do some really hard stuff. And so that's when you start calling her and like, hey, get
Yeah.
me out of here. I'm
Trying to
going to
hit
hurt
that easy button,
myself.
dude. Hit that easy button.
Easy button, easy button.
Yeah, she took it
And
away.
she said a hard thing.
She took the button away,
Mhm.
and she said, "I'm not coming."
But she took, but here's the thing, she took away her own easy button. Her own easy button that moment would be to, you know, okay, David, I'll get you, I'll come get you. That
Yeah.
was the easy button. So then you know, you don't have your son, your adult son calling you up, harassing you, scaring you to death, giving you sleepless nights where you cannot sleep. Like the easy button in that moment would be to go get you.
Hmm.
So first thing she did was she took away her own easy button. So that's what I was saying, like to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to do the hard thing,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And she actually wouldn't say, "I'm not coming to get you." She would just like, she would make statements like, "Hey, we just lost your father. I don't want to lose you too. Like, you can do one more night. You can stay for one more night." And she would even tell me, like, "You need to be honest with the people around you. Like, you have therapy tomorrow. Be honest with your therapist about what you're feeling and where you are. You can do 24 hours. 24 hours isn't going to kill anyone." So, and it would start out by her just, she's not saying, "I'm not coming to get you." She's encouraging me to stay for 24 more hours. And then the 24 more hours would turn into like, "You can do another week. Then you can do another month," you know, as I started to like get healthier. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she did the very hard thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so mama met me niece.
Yeah. And Lucas's mom too. He was trying everything in the book to get out and tell
Oh
him
yeah.
they're not feeding him. He's going to die of starvation.
Oh yeah. I hit all the lines, and my parents like. I swear, I like to remember in my mind that they said it in unison, but it was like the treatment center gave them a line, and like no matter what I would say, they would go, "We support your continued recovery and staying in active treatment," like something like that. And I swear they would like say it at the same time, and it was like anything I would say, I would just get that back. And I was like, "No, but they're not feeding me, and my socks are itchy, and I don't like it, and I'm not getting enough anything, you know." And it was like, "We support your continued recovery and addiction
Like
experience."
they're just reading it off of a post-it note.
Dude,
on
I
the desk.
swear. So it was just good, like pattern exhaustion, because I wasn't like, "Oh, you're right, I can do hard things." Like it was nothing motivational. I was just like, "This shit ain't working. I'm gonna have to go to something else." You know, like I'll try something else. You come back a week later with new things. I'm like, "All right, these are gonna get them. This will break through that robotic one-liner." And then I try it again, and it'd just be the same thing again. So finally, I was just like, "All right, this just isn't gonna work. I guess I'm just gonna have to do this thing."
It's interesting. Like, did your parents ever give you like a big heart to heart trying to get you to change?
My parents?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, many,
Yeah,
many times.
I could see like the consistent, almost robotic approach is the hard thing. Like you want to just like grab your son, like who you love dearly, and just be like, "Look, you got this, you know, you can do it," and almost like bring almost too much emotionality into it. So the hard thing for them at that time was just to be like, "We're just gonna be steady, stable, consistent, steady, stable, consistent." You
It
know,
was it was the perfect it was the perfect thing, because if they had even opened it up to say like how they felt about it or be inspirational or whatever, it opens up the debate. And that's what I wanted, because I could win any debate. And like, that's where I was the most comfortable and confident, was like, "Come on, let's get back and forth. You're going to get emotional. I'm going to stay in the moment, and like I'm going to crush your points and then have it to where you come pick me up." So it's like that was the best thing they could do, was just not really engage with the points and just say, "We want you to be sober long term and believe this is where you can do it," basically. And so it kind of shut my one thing down, that it was like, yeah, well then I can't argue with that, Like, what does that even mean? But it was
I
perfect.
bet
And
you.
the treatment center told them, I think my mom later told me that the treatment center gave them that to say, and gave them a lot of coaching ahead of time of like, "Ooh," because I mean, dude, they had to have known of like, "He's coming. Your son's coming with some heat, with some fire. He's got a list." And they were like, "Just say this back no matter what." And that's basically what they did. And I think I was the one to end the call to be like, screw this. I'm going back in the woods. It just wasn't working. So it just depends. I think there's different instances and suggestions for different people in different times. But there was no inspirational line that any human being on earth was going to say to me, no matter how compelling, how logical, how anything, that I was going to accept at that time. I would just refute anything and never concede and never give up and argue to the bitter. Like that was just what I was doing. So that's the only thing you can do with a person like that.
Yeah, and I think your parents they were showing you, they were modeling, whether they realize or not, like, hey, just go back to the basics, just be consistent, just even if you don't want to, just go back. Like we're not gonna go into this familiar area of like intellectualizing or arguing or being super emotional. We're just gonna show you something. Like we're doing this something different, you know. And I think that's one of the things as a parent, that's one of our like our roles and responsibilities, to show our kids like, hey, there are new and different ways you can do things. You can adjust and adapt, which is like one of the coolest things about people being in recovery, because families usually have had to adjust and adapt.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna
All
wrap
right.
this up. How do we put a bow on this one? Take it away, Cole.
Oh. Oh.
I know, like get a freestyle rap on or something. Yeah. Addiction is mental health, right? Like they're not
And
different.
physical
It's
health.
all under
Throw
yes,
physical health in there.
it's all under the umbrella of like trying to live like a connected, functional life. And I mean, there's spiritual stuff in there, there's relational stuff in there, there's addiction stuff in there, mental health stuff in there. It's all in there. But as soon as you start trying to categorize it, you need to really check where you're coming from and see if fear is like what's calling the shots there for you.
Yeah. Well done, dude. That was a good bow. It's pretty.
All
It's
right. Thank you.
got polka dots on it.
Yeah. All right. And we will see you next time for the 56th episode.
Oh boy.
See ya.